Guru Nation, it's been a busy day, but I wanted to share with you an interview I did with the founder of Keybeam, all the way from Spain. Keybeam is a imaging startup. They use algorithms and machine learnings to analyze MRIs and PET scans and look for biomarkers for clinical research studies. But the reason why I'm sharing this with you, it's an inspirational story, but the reason why I'm sharing it with you is he's now the fifth person this year, and this is January 2018 for historical context. So hello from those in the future. Let me know if I'm right or wrong with this, with what I'm about to say. But basically, this is like the fifth person this year telling me that CROs are losing their leverage because vendors are getting more flexible in their offerings. Vendors, for example, this guy's startup not only does MRIs, but they actually use algorithms and machine learning to look at biomarkers. And then you got companies like 23andMe and other precision medicine vendors that are doing so much more than just one thing. So when they combine with a sponsor for a study, it's synergy. It's 1 + 1 = 3 or 4, not just 2. So the CROs are losing leverage because they used to control all these vendors. And they used to offer all those services like biostatistics and data analysis and all that. Now their only real value is really monitoring, and sponsors can do that in-house. So yes, I still have a CRO. We're running it. We have a very unique and untraditional model where we look for research-naive physicians with large private practices, and we get them up to speed on how to do research. But I think the big CROs over time, and again, just a speculation here, but 5 people that I look up to in this industry, thought leaders, have told me the same thing this year, that CROs are starting to lose their market share. So, or at least their leverage. Now we're probably 10 years away, maybe 5 years away from starting to see some of the ramifications of this. But January 2018, it's early, but I wanted to bring this to you so you guys can decide for yourself. But if nothing else, listen to an inspirational story about a clinical research startup founder, and hope you enjoy. Take care. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Keybeam Blog. This is Dan Sfera. I'm here with Angel Bayari. Angel is the founder of Keybeam. As you can see behind him, they get the logo, they get the website going. They got a very nice website. And you may not know, but we also have a blog. It's called keybeamblog.com. So there's links on the actual website, Keybeam. What's the website, the URL for your website?
It's quiebeam.com.
Quiebeam.com. And on there you have links, news stories, links to the blog. Go check it out to learn more about Quiebeam. And today, Angel just got back from 3 weeks in San Francisco, or maybe you spent 1 month there?
Almost 1 month,
Almost
around
1
Bay
month.
Area.
Yeah, you're almost a resident of California.
Yeah, in fact, I liked California a lot, so I had a nice time there, so probably I'll be back.
Yeah, me too. I love it here. It's awesome. We keep having more people move in, but the weather, you can't beat it. The economy, as we talked about in the last interview, it's one of the places to be it has that startup culture, most of the
Yeah.
companies here, right? So, just like Quiebeam, and Quiebeam's been around just give everyone a brief background on Quiebeam, how long you've been around for.
Well, actually, Quiebeam was founded in 2012, but in the end of 2012, but it was non-active until 2014, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because I was focused in other professional commitments in my previous company. So in 2014, I was 30 years old. So I decided to have the chance to test what happens if you are an entrepreneur and to assume the risk. So I started at that moment. And since now, I mean, we have been going through the creation of the business plan at the beginning, raising funds, creating the team, developing the product, launching the product, certifying. So this is the story, and it's in fact, it's a fantastic story of success.
Mm-hmm.
We are getting more and more involved in more projects, in more clinical trials with more customers in hospitals. So we are now in the middle of the growth process, and this this is a really nice story of our company.
Yeah, and this year I'm telling everybody I know, this year, 2018 clinical research, it's going to be the busiest year on record for
Mm,
everything. Sites, vendors,
yeah,
CROs, sponsors are doing so many studies, acquisitions, you're going to see a lot of more mergers. You've already
yeah,
seen some mergers with the CROs. It's just continuation of last year. Last year was getting busy around third and fourth quarter, and we've
yeah.
seen no slowdown at all. Matter of fact, every week I have a new site selection visit, so this is a good year for clinical research, and that's a true entrepreneur story as far as Quibeam is concerned. So 2012 it started, but you didn't really do anything with it until 2014 because you were focused on other projects. So it started as a true passion, started as a side
Mm,
business because it's something you
mm.
felt compelled to do, and then you finally were able to, I guess, have enough traction in the market to commit full time to this. And you picked the right time because we've been on a growth since that time.
Yes, I have been involved in quantitative imaging since 2007, more or less. Well, I graduated that year in 2007 from electronics engineering. So I started to develop image analysis algorithms at that right moment. But, there was not, I would say, a market movement, moving radiology towards quantitative imaging at that time. When we were discussing about imaging biomarkers with, for example, radiologists, they at that time even didn't had the impression of what would be useful for what, at that moment. So we did a lot of research, a lot of papers, doctoral thesis, the PhD, and in the end, we noticed that during those years it was more something about research than from a real clinical application or clinical trials application in the market, right?
Yep.
But also we were seeing how progressively, all the big data wave and also the artificial intelligence become more and more important. And then it seemed to us that we were in the moment of creating, a kind of business about the image analysis, no, and the imaging biomarkers analysis. So we had several solutions that every time we gave a lecture, every time we were discussing with radiologists from other places, other hospitals, or with people from clinical trials, they told us, I mean, this is actually very important, how can we integrate that? We don't have engineers. How could we
Hmm.
implement AI, imaging biomarkers in our environment, without engineers? So in the end, we decided to offer this kind of advanced image analysis solution to everyone. For that, we thought on creating a cloud platform. That cloud platform allows to be everywhere in the world.
Sure.
So we just deploy the platform in the cloud provider. We launched the product, and we have customers in Chile, customers in India, Uruguay,
Hmm.
States, Europe. So in the end, it doesn't matter where you are. If you have a cloud solution that's scalable
Yeah.
and you have a strong team behind the platform that can, give the support to the customer. So
Do you guys use AWS, Amazon Web Service?
no, we by chance we are with Microsoft Azure.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The Microsoft is our provider, and this is an historical relationship because they had a program called BizSpark Plus, and using BizSpark Plus, they were trying to help um, companies with a high potential of growth, and they selected us to this program. And we started with them having this kind of a sponsorship, and we were involved in this format during the first 2 years. And then when we, were in open sea, as we like to say, and driving alone, then we started to use them as a provider, and all our infrastructures are there. No, that doesn't mean that we are fully Microsoft compatible or we are fully, let's say, Microsoft guys, because our architecture is quite independent from the cloud provider. That means that at given point we decide that by any reason, imagine we have to host our own solution in our own data centers. I mean, we even do not have to change neither the database, neither the file system, because we are quite agnostic, let's say,
Yeah.
to the provider of the cloud infrastructure.
It's a true startup. You use the tools that you have, you leverage the infrastructure out there. I think this is a good story and one that we need to focus more on. Maybe we combine the webinar. For those that don't know, stay tuned. Kibim and I will be co hosting a webinar in February, and it's going to be a
Hmm.
lot about biomarkers, but I also want to make it about the startup culture for a clinical research company because I think
Yeah.
that's matches exactly with the narrative that you have. Um, as far as so, I mean, this entrepreneur story is pretty good, and we're gonna focus on it a little bit more. But you just came back from a conference, right? Precision Medicine World
Yes.
Congress in San Francisco.
Yes. I was there also, not only because of the JP Morgan that was the focus of the last
Yeah,
talk we had, but last week it was the Precision Medicine World Conference. It was in Mountain View. It was in a really, really nice place. It was in the Museum of the Computer, of the history of the
wow.
computer.
Okay.
So it was a very good place. And also the conference, for the first time in its history, had a specific track for artificial intelligence. It's the 13th edition of the Precision Medicine World Conference there in Silicon Valley. And here, this year, it was the first one to have this AI track. And there was an expert and an investor, I would say, some people from Bay Area
Venture
that
capital.
take
Yeah.
care of venture capital, yeah, that take care of focusing on companies also working on AI and health that invited us to be present at the Precision Medicine World Conference. One of these persons is Margareta Colangelo. She is quite active also in LinkedIn,
Mm.
and she's a venture capitalist, and she's helping entrepreneurs to connect with other investors, and she's doing a great job for the improvement of let's say healthcare, also life longevity. She's interested in this kind of projects, and she was the promoter of the AI track, right? So she invited several companies around the globe. We were companies from Europe, from Korea, from
Mm-hmm.
India, from US involved in this track. You know what? It was amazing to see all the progress that we are carrying on, and all the discussions that came out from the artificial intelligence
Yeah.
threatening to humans and this kind of stuff. Now that's for us, it's more a hype, and we know that now we will undergo a kind of de-illusion curve, because AI is still not ready for assuming several human tasks. No, although there is a strong marketing in favor of that.
Yeah. And this is interesting because it brings up another macro topic that I just recently have stumbled across in clinical research, and it has a lot to do with the emergence of the vendor like Kibim that is doing much more and is capable of doing much more than just what vendors, let's say 10 years ago, were capable of doing. For example, I still do a lot of research with Alzheimer's, and we're using
Mm.
traditional MRI and PET scan facilities with there's no biomarker, there's no key beams involved, right? And those vendors can never do clinical research because they don't understand it, they don't have the technology, that's just not what they do, right? They happen to do it because we pay them to be a vendor for our study. Now, what's happened recently is the emergence of companies like Kibim, 23andMe. You have all these vendors from different areas that now have this scalable technology that can do much more than what their ancestors were able to do even
Hmm.
10 years ago. Okay, and I've talked with
Yeah.
futurists. I actually gonna interview a futurist, Doctor. Well, I can't mention his name, but I'll be interviewing him, and he basically said, especially after the 2016 GCP revisions, where the FDA mandate that pharma be more involved in research, a lot of the business that was outsourced to CROs is gonna slowly come back to the pharma
Hmm.
because of companies like Kibim, of
Yeah.
23andMe, of like this precision medicine that we talked about, right? So the vendors are now becoming more critical partners in this process. And I
Yeah.
think it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Forget about artificial intelligence, that's coming too. That's going to
Yeah.
that's going to put an end to all of it. But
Absolutely.
like that's the macro concept I'm starting to see is the CROs are still going to be out there, and there's going to be a role for a CRO, but they're not going to be full
Hmm.
service like they are now, like a Quintiles, like INC, because it's easy to find Kibim now, right? You go on YouTube, you
Yeah.
go to a conference, you meet you, hey, we already found a vendor for this. Let's find a vendor for this. Okay, we just need a few monitors now. Why do we need a CRO? Right? And we're
Yeah.
nowhere near to that being commonplace, but a lot of people, it's not just my idea. In fact, other people gave me this idea, and I'm running with it now. A lot of people see that this is where the industry is headed, and I think Keybeam is in a good position to do that. Just like metadata was able to leverage EDC in the early 2000s, and now they do
Yeah.
all. If you know metadata and Bioclinica, they do all kinds of stuff in the space, right? But they
Yeah.
started with one core competency. So Keybeam
Yeah.
is definitely in the right space at the right time. What are your thoughts on that? Have you heard stuff like that too?
Yeah. I mean, and I think that what is more important, no, I even have the data on that, because I can have thoughts on that, but for me, it's more important to see that there is a progressive movement on having direct contracts with sponsors instead of having CROs.
Mm-hmm.
So in our experience and to our surprise, we as a company, we're focusing on addressing also our message to CROs. And suddenly we noticed that progressively, um, some CROs are kind of getting more and more disconnected, from the clinical trials workflow, are quite in the middle of a process where already the vendors have already the sponsors have integrated know-how. They have integrated statisticians, they have integrated researchers, they have integrated people of the biology, PhDs. So they have quite strong know-how nowadays, and they are directly looking for vendors. They are just jumping some of the CROs we know, and they are contacting, as you were mentioning, companies like us. And I would say that as of now, 90% of the trials opportunities that are coming up for Quivim are coming directly from pharma sponsors and not for CROs. No, mainly because I think that this kind of complex knowledge that some time ago uh, had the feeling that it has to be outsourced to those CRO companies like statistics, as I was mentioning, uh, analysis of data,
Mm-hmm.
or, for example, recruitment, or
Labs.
control of patient labs.
Yeah.
I mean, nowadays everything is being involved within the sponsor and the direct subcontractions to the vendor. So we are more we are having more success with sponsors directly.
Definitely interesting to keep an eye on this space. I have a startup CRO. We're getting projects, but we're not starting with the old CRO paradigm business model in mind. We're pretty mobile. We can do anything. I mean, we white
Great.
label. So there's a lot of opportunities with this changes, especially if you're involved in the space but not as a CRO. Because let's face it, I mean, it's very hard to put together all the components of a CRO. It's very expensive, right? But you don't need to
Yes.
do that. I think if you're trying to do that, you're playing in the past decade, because going forward, That's not the way this industry is going to shape out. Like
Mm,
Wayne Gretzky said in hockey, I know you guys don't really like hockey over there. I don't either too much. He said, "Don't go where the puck is. Go to where it's going to be." Right, and
yeah,
that's a perfect metaphor for this concept.
absolutely agree. And I think that only those companies, and not generalizing, no, probably I generalize when I say CROs. I think that all the companies can adapt to the current trends of what sponsors need, and probably only those CROs adapting to sponsor requirements and customer needs will prevail. Probably, no. I
Very
see
well
that
said.
those traditional businesses of all the staff of clinical trials are losing contracts more and more progressively. So
So
I think that IT and big data and artificial intelligence, smart statistics need to be the drivers of clinical trials, and only companies working on that will get involved.
yeah, only they will win. It's going to be interesting to pay attention to this space, to live in this space. And also one final thing, the power and all the
Mm,
leverage used to be in the hands of these CROs because only they would know, only they would have the know-how. Now, that knowledge is out there. You can read articles about it. You go on LinkedIn and meet with somebody who can
yeah,
do it for 1/10 of the price of the CRO that you just contracted with. So that leverage is shifting back to the sponsor where it should be
yeah,
because they're the ones paying for the study, right? It should have never been with a
absolutely,
middleman, the CRO. So,
absolutely.
excellent topic, Angel. We're going to do more on this. We're going to actually should do a webinar just on this topic, but that should be the next webinar after this current one that we're
I
going to do.
agree. I
So I'm
agree.
gonna write this down. I'm gonna definitely put this one on my YouTube as well because I think it's important for my audience also. Definitely for Kibim. If you're on Facebook, leave a comment on where you think the future of the industry is going, what kind of videos you'd like to see more of in the future from us, and stay tuned for details on that webinar. Okay. Thank you, Angel. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. KibimBlog.com. Take care.